Hey everyone, it's the Sith Justice Warriors coming at you on our typical Sunday night talking about entertainment with your co-host, Princess Lumpia.
Hey guys, we don't have Darth Sirius with us tonight because he is busy watching Hell in the Cell. So hopefully he can give us the rundown next time. But I'm pretty sure it's exciting. But anyway, thanks for the intro. Hope everyone's doing well. I did want to talk about just an interesting topic, and we spent a lot of time on the podcast the other day talking about movies as it relates to the upcoming films that are sort of in the genre of video games turned movies. We talked about a couple of the announcements around Resident Evil, the casting for that upcoming reboot. We talked about the Uncharted movie, etc. What I wanted to talk about was just again state of the movies sort of situation. I mean, there are actually movie theaters that are open. Liam Neeson has a movie out that's I believe it's called The Honest Thief. And it actually was in movie theaters that were open. But again, like it was a quiet sort of opening because a lot of theaters are closing, but for the ones that are open, they're actually showing movies. What I wanted to talk about was since we spent a lot of time last week talking about the Disney announcement, what that means for movies and streaming from their perspective with a lot of their properties. The Mandalorian, for example, is coming out, which I'm shocked that it's come out so fast, but it basically is coming out in 5 days, which is very exciting. So we'll have something more to talk about as we digest the first episode. But it's interesting because Disney still has not mentioned Black Widow, in the sense that it's been pushed out, but could they potentially put it on stream? I don't know yet. Either way, this week, Variety actually published an interesting article, and I wanted to get your thoughts around it, fan, because it was around the James Bond film, which I think everyone was looking forward to because it was supposed to come around Thanksgiving. Of course, it was pushed back from its earlier release because of COVID and the situation in movie theaters, but it actually was pushed out to the Thanksgiving weekend slot. And now, since things really haven't changed across the nation in certain parts, we're also hearing of, spikes in a lot of coronavirus cases. So, there are a lot of precautions still across the United States, at least we can speak to that, are preventing most people from really going to the theater. So, likely the likelihood of anyone going to see it in Thanksgiving would just really kind of alter a lot of what they've been, trying to do for the film industry, revive it, so to speak, and also recoup a lot of the money that they spent on filming this. But again, it was just one of those things that even I was looking forward to because it was like, to me, if this launched in the movie theaters and did well, like, could we get back to a sense of normalcy? Either way, I digress. Variety published an article basically saying that the James Bond film No Time to Die actually explored $600 million sale to streaming services. So apparently, I believe that they were looking. Rumors were around either the Apple TV brand, or to go to what the heck is it? Um, Not Amazon, but it was like either Apple or Netflix, I believe, that to basically stream it. Which was interesting because I don't know how much the film cost, to be honest, with you. I don't know if they would have truly recouped what what they would have made if it was like quote unquote normal, but it's good to hear that they actually did consider streaming services. But I mean, they lost money to begin with all these delays. It was supposed to come out in April. So either way, it's been pushed out. There were a lot of partnerships in the article. It mentions a lot of partnerships, which is true of James Bond, Omega Watches, Heineken Land Rover. So a lot of these partnerships were kind of basically the reason they lost so much money is because they paid for these, these companies paid for a lot of this stuff and they're not getting their returns. Either way, Borat 2 came out this past week on Amazon via Prime. So if you have a subscription, you could watch it. I don't know the metrics on it. I did watch it. It's not as funny as the original because you kind of know what to expect with him, but it was entertaining nonetheless. And if you have a Prime membership, it's free. But either way, I wanted to get your thoughts around, is this going to be something, fan, we're going to be seeing a lot more of? Basically, as we continue to recover as a nation and try to figure out what normalcy is, like our theaters, not theaters, but our movie companies, the ones that are going to have to really start looking to selling the movie rights to streaming services like an Apple or Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever in order to get their movies out there, or are we just not going to see any more movies? Like, what are your thoughts? Just curious.
I think movie theaters will not be able to rebound unless it's more of a public sentiment thing. So I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to say whether things should open up, things should stay closed. But what I'm going to leave it as is that it's going to be the movie theaters. The health of the movie theaters of the future is based on public trust and public sentiment. If is there an ability to survive or recover, that I think is going to take time given how things have been portrayed. I'm going to leave it there. And what the movie companies are trying to do is hedge their bet right now. You're going to see a lot of contractions where maybe some movies that had 10 only shows are probably going to close down maybe, or actually you're going to find that the footprint of the 25 theater 25 show theaters might close down because in order to clean said facility, it's going to take a lot of time.
Right.
You're probably going to space out the amount of shows you can do a day because you can't have 10. You're probably going to have 5 at best. It's going to have to be a huge culture shift. And I don't know how we as a global planet are going to move on quickly in order for movie theaters to continue on. And I think where movie studios are saying is that, well, we have streaming platforms, we have video on demand, you have things like Vudu. Well, actually, Vudu was sold, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so if Vudu was sold, basically Paramount, for example, could just do their own platform. You might just see basically everyone has their own platform, and you're not doing a Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime type.
Yeah,
of
basically
deal.
like HBO did their own. Like it's like, oh, we're gonna release movies on our own. I think Witches came out, like the release of Witches, which was a reboot of the original with Angelica Houston back in the back when we were kids. But anyway, yeah, continue. Sorry about that.
No, it's I think
But is
It's
that
going to be
going
a
to affect the quality, I guess? Because let's put it this way, if you're on a budget, think of the movies that cost so much to make. Like those kind that were like Michael Bay, like type of explosions and stuff. Like, are we going to see less of that? Because, like, for example, some of the Netflix films, which are fine and great, but like some of them, they have to be on a budget, and so some of the effects take a toll because you can't do all the special effects when you're on a budget and you want some high profile names in there. Like I know they came out with the Old Guard, Charlize Theron was in it, but then the rest of the supporting actors and actresses were people like I don't know that I'm that familiar with. So one of them is actually going to be in the Dune movie, I think. But like I said, it's interesting because you really have to find that balance, and that's where I'm going. It's like if we move towards this, if this becomes the new norm is as streaming movies where you are, wherever you are at home, blah blah blah, is what it's going to be. Are we going to suffer? Like, are we going to get these type of movies like James Bond, No Time to Die, Avengers with all of those people? Like, or is this going to be something? Should our expectations basically be toned down? I think you have a point. Like, I like what you said actually about, it's going to take time to clean the theater. You can't even sit like there are certain restrictions to sitting. Um, I will say to you, I don't know how they've done it overseas, but Europe had opened their theaters. Singapore has opened their theaters. People during this time have been watching movies globally in other countries and nations. I don't know why we in the United States can't get it right. And it's probably different standards, I'm guessing. But
Asian's a bit different because I think Asian culture, they you often see them like wearing a mask.
yeah, I guess.
And when we were in Japan, it was like they would just clean that train uh, really good. Whereas trains and public transportation in our country, they just if they ever clean it, it's just kind of a towel wipe and call it a day.
Yeah.
I think Asia sort of has had so many of these instances that they're probably more used to it than we are, but that doesn't change the fact that we in Europe and United States and any other country, I don't think we've seen the amount of coverage and the amount of messaging about a pandemic the way, or not a pandemic, but more like just a global outbreak of this nature portrayed the way it was.
Got it.
I mean, we've had in the United States, never before have we ever talked about mail-in ballots and stuff like that. Now that's kind of being pushed as a norm. Not going to get political, but I just all of my life, I never even thought I'd ever hear that in the United States.
Yeah.
So the way it's been portrayed, whether it's what people believe, it's created so many standards and procedures that it's undeniable that if you're going to get back to big movie theaters, that fun experience, it's going to take time. I don't know if the movie theaters have enough cash to survive till then. And so that's why these movie studios are trying to either go direct to consumer or hedge their bet by doing a 600 million deal with a Netflix and Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, like I said, it's interesting, but I know, like I said, it's what will be interesting is if it's worth it from a movie company perspective, because you sell the rights to an entire movie, you don't really see the true demand from an audience perspective. And we're going to go into this is actually a good time to segue into the next discussion I know you wanted to have, because if you were a Netflix, for example, and we mentioned this in our Disney Plus discussion last week, you don't have to release metrics the way movie theaters do. movie theaters can release gross sales based on the ticket purchases based on the movie. So there's a direct line of sight, and you can figure out how many movie theaters played the movie, how many times a day. You could really figure out a lot of the metrics. But watching it on streaming and offering it on streaming, what metrics are available?
Yeah, that's a really good segue. So I'm going to quote an IGN article posted on October 21st. It's actually an article focusing on Netflix. So the title is Netflix Reveals Viewership Numbers for Enola Holmes Project Power. And so in their Q3 2020 call, because they had a very interesting Q3 given a specific movie that I shall not name. Um, in the article, they talk about The Old Guard, you mentioned, Enola Holmes, Project Power, and The Kissing Booth 2 in their first 4 weeks as part of the Q3 2020. Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron, was seen by 78 million members in its first 4 weeks, which is up from Netflix's estimate of 72 million. Netflix is still counting A View as only watching 2 minutes of a movie because that's long enough to indicate the choice was intentional.
Okay.
We'll hold that thought, and then so its top 10 biggest movie debuts around the time The Old Guard was released in July. And then they talk about Enola Holmes. Enola Holmes is estimated to quote unquote reach 76 million members over the first 4 weeks. Project Power was seen by 75 million Netflix members. Article goes on, talks about the different pieces. They also talk about Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai season 1 was really good. Haven't got around to season 2, but
Same
season
here.
3 is gonna come out, and season 4 has been tagged by Netflix. Going back though, from a metric standpoint, what I find Netflix to be interesting, you've got the term the seen, I guess seen/viewed, which is watching 2 minutes of a movie, and then you've got reach. And the interesting thing about these terms, the semantics, is that, especially with the view, technically, does that count that when you go on the menu, you leave the movie, like, you know how you leave it on the
Oh,
movie?
that's right. And then it plays automatically.
Exactly. It plays it. So my question is, it's not playing the trailer, it's actually playing the movie, and you leave it there. And then it transitions to the movie. Like, do you know what I mean? And reach is not necessarily seen. So this Enola Holmes, which is kind of funny to me about how we wanted to replace Sherlock Holmes with Enola Holmes. Yeah, it's reach. Reach is kind of like me scrolling over, is it not? We'll never know, but I find these things interesting.
Yeah,
because
reach. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
like, I think at the end of the day, we talk about the semantic numbers about the individual content, but from a money standpoint, the most important number is subscribers. So
right.
let me go move on to, what was your point about Nola Holmes?
Well, no, I mean, and it is still on my to watch list. I only want to watch it because Henry Cavill is in it, but that's just me. I'm actually like, I, I, I have to wonder what the heck the word reach means, because if you think about it from like a marketing perspective, it's like more or less like how many households have you penetrated? So I'm wondering if that's what they mean by reach, like how many stores carry your product and how many exist in the universe. So like that would be my guess of what reach means if I think about it from a business perspective. Like if there are how many TVs in the world, how many how many if there are many households in the world with a TV, how many are subscribers? I'll never know that answer. I can think my own, but it could also be a subscriber who just has a phone. So you don't necessarily have to have a home or TV. But anyway, reach, it throws me off, but I agree with you because it's kind of shady in a way. I throw that word out there because the way that they define these things are almost like you said, self-serving. Because to your point, just because I leave it on to play, does that mean I viewed it? And what constitutes a view? Because
2
on
minutes.
YouTube, for example, how many
Mhm.
minutes?
2.
So is that snippet that they autoplay considered viewing? I don't know. Like it's almost like a trailer, and trailers are within 2 minutes, so or less actually. So could technically be as long as you play the trailer.
We don't have the internal the notes and
The science of it.
yeah, inside baseball here. But the funny thing is it comes to like if Netflix does it, this is Disney Plus, this is how Hulu does it, this is how Prime does it. And I kind of think back to our last podcast about the MCU. And kind of my question is if the raw dollar is the subscriber count, they could use these in terms like reach and seen to justify a failing product. Well, so for example, you could say that Captain Marvel made $1 billion. However, it's evident that we didn't even announce Captain Marvel 2 when they were pronouncing how great it was, right? To this day, we know there's Captain Marvel 2. But what I'm trying to say, it was very easy to justify Captain Marvel 2
Yep,
when you had the metric of $1 billion in sales.
exactly.
Whether there's a lot of conspiracy theories about it, which, you know what, if you did some funny accounting, I think you probably will go to jail for that. I'm not gonna go down the accusation of those conspiracy theories, but you can justify Captain Marvel if you make $1 billion. You can't. You can't justify a Miss Marvel movie that does 500 million. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you can do that by having it as a Disney Plus. Same thing with any other, and let's look at Netflix. She-Ra has somehow survived what 3, 4 seasons,
Has
and
Are
a
you
lot of She-Ra fans, the original She-Ra fans, have been very disappointed with it. Again, are you counting scene? Are you counting reach? Because I was shocked that She-Ra is at season 4.
Me too. I can't believe they got past season one. Like Netflix is canceling shit left and right. I mean,
And these are some of the things that there are some shows that they're willing to die on the hill for, like unsaid movie that I will not talk about.
I mean, seriously, like they canceled Away, which I didn't watch with Hilary Swank as like an astronaut, and I heard it was a really great series. They canceled a couple other ones, and it just makes you wonder. It's like what the hell is going on? But then they want She-Ra. Okay, yeah,
Well, I thought Daredevil, and I know this is sort of a disagreement of this is basically Marvel trying to, take back their property, which is why they canceled like things like Daredevil
yeah,
and stuff. But you know, like for example, Punisher lasting only 2 seasons. I mean, that's kind of a shame. I'm glad you could take it back, Marvel, but then knowing you, Marvel, you're going to concentrate on things like Miss Marvel, She Hulk, and you're going to throw away things like the Punisher. Even Jessica Jones had its quality.
yeah, yeah,
As much as that fit the narrative.
yeah.
And maybe I'm going down this reach to go down this road, but it's a fascinating thing that because you can really hide behind subscriber count, what you essentially do is you can make a number or a metric that may not be as meaningful because if you're telling me viewed is 2 minutes up to 2 minutes or more,
Yep,
I could just watch it for 2 minutes and a second and just say this is crap.
exactly.
Like I'm sure Xbox does it on their end with Game Pass, but I just don't know how sustainable that is.
Yeah. I mean, I will say at least Xbox could say downloaded because, like, if you think about it, not in defense of them, but if you think about it, they can track the many times it was downloaded to to your PC or to your console, and that's a good number they can quote unless they're all on cloud, then it's different.
But then you could claim that. See, you could. So the thing about it is, you can claim usage, and so they have the ability to say,
because for you to wait and download a game means you're really going to try to play it. Let's be real.
Unlike me, who just
No, or unlike a movie where you might download it now and not watch it until like 5 weeks later, or maybe never. But anyway, go ahead.
But back to this, I mean, like, obviously the things like No Time to Die, I think people are going to eat that up. I worry that we let these companies kind of get away with those metrics.
Yeah.
But you know what? If they don't provide good content to keep subscribers, it's going to be a problem. I mean, one of the interesting things is, like, for example, if you're in the United States, T-Mobile gives you free Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't know who pays for it. I'm assuming T-Mobile does in this situation, but
or maybe it's Netflix marketing expenses. Who knows?
it could be. It could be a marketing. It could also be a marketing expense for T-Mobile, right?
True.
And I'm also interested to know, like, who's willing to pay for the premium account. So, for example, the the basic one is 1080p. A good handful of people are going to 4K, but do they pay for the 4K? Like, do they feel that the 4K is worth the upgrade? You know what I mean? Like, things like that. There's a lot of metrics that are not said that are actually dollar count, but
Yeah.
I just worry, and from my perspective, that you have that example of 76 million reached Enola Holmes.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean that we can throw aside Sherlock Holmes? Because I'm sorry, I had to say it. When I saw that there was a clip for Enola Holmes and I saw it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Granted, I don't expect them to get Benedict Cumberbatch or Robert Downey Jr., but I'm just trying to say, like, come on. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's interesting how they kind of, like I said, it's self-serving whenever they feel like releasing some metrics they can, which is why for the film industry, like even the actors and actresses, like it's tough because that, like, this is the other question, like, how can you nominate these people for Oscar awards and Academy Awards when people have not even seen the film? That's the part I'm kind of like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's Oscar season coming up, Emmy season, like, it's award season coming up towards the end of January, February, right? How can you, like, they're already talking about, oh, this is an Oscar-winning performance. Like, how? When we haven't seen the movie. It hasn't come out. It's not available on stream. And for the theaters that do have it, like, I mean, how can you possibly, I know it's really for the actors to vote for it, but how can we sit there and watch these award shows and act like we believe them when they say that person's performance is, like, deserving of a nomination? So whatever, I digress. But either way, it's something interesting we'll keep tabs on. I'm curious to see what the trend is going to be. Good for Disney that they stuck their foot out and said, I'm focusing on streaming. We'll see how that plays out for them. No one else has followed suit in that weird sense. Like, to your point, Paramount
did it, and they got blacklisted into giving up to the movie
right?
theater.
And then
but no one does it to Disney.
There's a whole bunch of other like basically production companies. It'd be interesting. Like, even NBC Universal has their own app. Like, everyone, at the end of the day, they're all going to have their own app with their own stuff. But at the end of the day, will movies will the quality of what we see suffer? Feels like there are lots of choices that have to happen, because if you have to choose from something that's somewhat like critically sound versus She-Ra, you have to start wondering, what the hell are we putting out there, and is it because of budgets? Like, we can't film a space drama because it's too much special effects, and we can't pay Hilary Swank, but we can pay voice actors for She-Ra and artists, which is great for them, but it's like you have to wonder where the balance is. On that note, I will end it there for me and my part. But before I go, I do want to mention that yesterday, I believe, was the what is it, the anniversary of when we first were introduced to John Wick many moons ago. The first John Wick, I think. So I had to drop that in because it was Keanu related. It's actually the 6-year anniversary of the first John Wick movie. So it was nice to see an article on Bro Bible, believe it or not, that mentioned it, because where would we be without John Wick, honestly? Where would Keanu be without John Wick? So anyway, I had to mention that. But
That being said, fuck Tyler Lockett. Yeah. So that being said, I think this is a great way to end it.
No, Tyler Lockett. No offense.
Tyler Lockett, dude.
Oh my god! I didn't even check the score.
Fuck Tyler Lockett.
Oh my god!
For those who checked in yesterday, I am facing Lumpia, and I am getting my ass handed to me.
I didn't even expect this. I have no words.
Kansas City defense just came out of nowhere.
Anyway,
my season's over. Anyway, that being said, for our non-football fans, hope for those who like our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications for future content. Also, note that we are on Twitter at JustTheSith. And note that we are on popular podcasts like Spotify or Google Podcasts. So this and our panel podcast will be up shortly after. So if you do prefer to listen to it or want to listen to it again and hear my lamenting as I'm getting my ass handed to me in fantasy this week, feel free to download. With that said, talk to you later and see you on the Sith side.
Bye.